Yes, Sam. We're a little slow. That's okay. Okay, we'll start with introducing the officers. Eric isn't here, I don't think. I didn't see him come in. Bruce Schwartz isn't here. Gordon, our treasurer.
Morning.
Steve Morris, our tech guy. Sharon Bender is here. Dan Cook, I know he's here. There he is. Tom is here. Dick Two back in the back. And Bob Whalen over here. Okay. We'll move on to the Fallen Veterans Program. Bob.
We have two fallen veterans that we're going to recognize this morning. And I'm looking around to see if any family members that have come. There she is. Okay, thank you for coming. The first one that we are going, another one here. It's been a long month and kind of short memory here, you know. Anyway, the first one that we are going to recognize is Frank Garrett. Frank Garrett passed away on January 6th, and he was in U.S. Navy. We want to recognize him. The second one that we are going to recognize is Anthony, better known as Tony Ivanilio.
Right.
And he was also U.S. Navy. And I'd also like to thank those family members for coming today. Thank you.
Did any of the family members want to say anything about the loved ones that passed away? Okay, thank you. No? Yes.
His name was never Antonio, it's John Tony. You said Antonio, it's John Tony Ivanilio, never Antonio.
Thank you. Now, we had a board member that's resigned, and I wanted to thank him because he's putting a lot of time. Don Seymour, he's been with the club for many years, right from the beginning, and he's decided to step down from the board. He was treasurer for many years, and then he oversaw the Veterans Day program for 13 years until Dan took it over. And now he was handling the fallen veterans. So he's been very involved for a long time. And he's worked hard for the club, and the club greatly appreciates his presence on the board. Will be missed. We hope to continue to see him at meetings, enjoying coffee and donuts. Don, we want to thank you for your service to the club and to the country. Now we'll move on to speaker. The speaker this morning is Korean War veteran Sergeant Gate Bresno. He's he served as a platoon leader, led patrols on Heartbreak Ridge. The Battle of Heartbreak Ridge was one of the several major engagements in the hills of North Korea, 3 miles north of the 38th parallel. July 27th, 1953, the armistice was signed, ending the fighting. Prisoners' rights changed, and South Korea gained a bit more territory northeast of the 38th parallel. Please welcome Gate Bresno.
Well, good morning. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I have it on. You should want to go ahead. Okay. Thanks for inviting me. To give you a little background on who I am an Italian boy born and raised in San Francisco. And my father was a World War I veteran, and I followed his in Korea. He was a mud soldier, and so was I. I entered the conflict in mid-52, and I was there till the last day of the conflict, the last minute conflict in 1953. I did so. Enter battle at the Punch Bowl, Heartbreak Ridge, and I missed getting in on the Pork Chop Hill fight with Company E because I got switched to Charlie Company, and served to Charlie Company, and served with them through 8 months of combat in that whole area. I'm not going to talk much about combat because you've all seen it. You know that it's ugly, but there are some neat things that happen. And when you get to my age, and I was born in 1931, so that makes me 92 plus. I'll be 93 in a couple more months. And had a son who is 71, Marine. And he says he's not an ex-Marine. Marines are never an ex-Marine. Anyway, he called me up the other night and said, "Dad, I've got these infirmities." I said, "Yeah, I had them too at 70, and he started this and that, arthritis, you name it." And he said, "Yes, but you set an awful high bar." So I said, "Geez, actually, I don't know if I should apologize for living." But he said, "It's okay, son, you keep trying, and you'll reach my age." So anyway, to keep this as short as possible, I was sent online in 1952 when I first got to Korea. And I had been trained as basic training, and then I went on to a war college because I had a young wife who was very pregnant, and I wanted to be here to see at least my first son born. And I got home, I had 4 more, so I did pretty good for lost time. And for that year I was gone. Anyway, lost my train of thought. It was, I can't remember the month. It was, I think, September 1952 that I was called. My platoon was called out, and I wasn't sergeant then. I was a little old corporal without stripes because all rank was frozen in 1951, 52. And so I immediately got into Easy, and then I was over to Charlie Company, and they handed me the BAR, the Browning automatic rifle. I was a BAR man, and so, and then a week later, my outfit was called online, and I had me, and does anybody here know, or the Korean veterans would know about a Katusa? That's good. Oh, great. Katusa is a Korean attached to the United States Army. Sigmund Rhee said that, make a deal with the American Army for being here. I would like you to take one Korean who could speak English and have him serve in each one of your squads. I got 4, but the squad leader was gone. He was sick. He had hemorrhagic fever in the hospital. 2 other guys had rotated, and one was on leave to Japan for R&R. And so it was me, who knew nothing, and 4 Koreans who said they could speak English, but the only thing we knew in common was the dirty words, but that they understood. So as long as we did that. So I went online that night at midnight with 4 Koreans, and we were given a sector in Korea at night. You'll know what it looks like, especially it is dark. It is shaking, the mountains are rumbling, there's cannon fire going off everywhere. And it's scary as hell, especially for a brand new private who'd never been anything like that. But we survived the night. I took the Koreans and placed them in bunkers that they had placed. At 6 a.m. in the morning, we got a shout out that one of the bunkers had been hit with a 61 millimeter mortar and had caved in, and there were 2 Koreans in it. I said, oh God, there goes my squad. They only have 2 left in me. So I dove into the bunker, dug them out, got them out. I think they, hopefully, I don't know whether they are alive or what at the time, because we were being shelled constantly. And I was looking up to the hole in the bunker thinking, well, if the next shell comes down there good, I won't know it anyway. I got back to, after we got the men out, got back to the CP, and Sergeant Hoffman said, Gay, you don't look too good, have something to eat. And that was the first time I realized that I was not going to get home. I was going to die, and it made me mad as hell, especially at the Chinese. We call Chinese blues. So anyway, I took over. We had a SWAT sector to cover with 3 of us. We covered it one night, and then people started coming, finally filling in up, and we had our whole squad there. And for the next 2 months, especially winter, Korea, my friends, is cold as hell. And I know you fellows, most of you fought in the jungle, and that had to be terrible too. But cold and snow and mud made it, just no fun at all. And the gentleman that I had to watch my back, he just arrived. His name was William Shakespeare. He was a Black American, or African American, hell of a nice guy and the best soldier I ever met. And we never had a problem. He watched my back, I watched his. But he didn't like to be called William Shakespeare, because everyone used to laugh at him. He was going to change his name to Will Shaky. So I called him Shaky after that. And we got along good for 2 months. We watched each other's back. Fine soldier he was. And then, of course, he transferred to another group. I went on with Charlie Tucker to fight at Heartbreak Ridge, Blade Ridge, and a couple of other places for the 8 months. Let's go forward now 8 months to July or to June 1st, 1953. June 1st was a great month. We've been online for 8 months in the Korea sector, dug in because it turned into a trench war. And we were not bombed, but shelled daily. But we gave back what we took, and we stood under them with the Dukes for a long time, just looking down each other's throats and shooting at each other back and forth for a good solid 4 months. We did a lot of patrol duty and we captured my squad. They were a tough bunch. I made a meeting. We captured a couple of groups and turned them in, and a couple of guys got an R&R trip because we had done that. So we were told in June, toward the end of June, that the war is over for you guys. You've done enough. And we're probably going to sign the arrangement will be in about a month. So you're going offline, and they took us offline and put us in tents, gave us a bunk instead of sleeping on a bed made of combo wire. We actually had a small air mattress and a 4 cases of beer. Each guy. And he said, you got a month, you're gonna stay here, no problem. You know, we just settled in to sleep all day and drink beer all night. That lasted exactly 24 hours. And then the colonel came in and said, you know, company, saddle up. And they came to me, he said, Sarge, saddle up your boys. And I said, oh no. So we saddled up and got into trucks, and we drove for the next 6 hours up in close to North Korea. Took us to an outpost called Outpost Queen, where Charlie Company and Baker Company, 2 companies of soldiers, walked 1.5 miles from the main line of resistance out to the Outpost Queen. And it was a little hummock between 2 mountains, Chinese groups on that side, the American MLR on this side, and we had a road and a plant to protect. And what we were there to let the MLR know that they were coming, but we were a blocker. We denied them the path and the road, and we kept doing that for a month. And of course, we had people injured, killed, and dying daily. I kept my boys safe as I could. And the night we took over the hill and relieved these companies that had gotten torn apart there, I was trying, and shells were coming in. I was trying to get everybody down into a trench or bunker or foxhole, get as safe as I could. And a lot of activity going on, and the company commander came by and said, well, Sergeant Bresno, we got the dirty detail again. I said, be sorry, but I said, don't worry about it. Lieutenant, we'll take care of it. So I was walking down the trench trying to get my boat settled, and there was a parson, a priest. He had a collar, was coming down the trench, giving communion to each person or each soldier as he walked by them. And he got to me, and I said, Father, you shouldn't be here. You're going to get hurt, you know. And he said, no, son, take this. So he made me take the host. And then I started complaining about him. I said, no, we got to get you down into the bunker, Father. And he said, no. He said, you watch me. He blessed himself and took the host also. And this whole time, 61 millimeter mortars dropping everywhere. And I keep grabbing him and pushing him down into the trench that we were standing in. And I said, into the bunker, Father. And he said, son, you and I may die tonight. But remember, you're just like the host, and so am I. So we will be dying in a state of grace. And that just took care of it. I calmed right down. I knew that it could happen, and if it did happen, it was probably about time. But I died in this state. I would have died in this state of grace, and it meant a lot to me. And Father said, no, we'll pray now. I said, Father, can we pray a little later? Get down in the bunker. And I'll come back and we'll pray, and I'll drag these other guys, these other heathens, and so you can fix them up, you know, get them go to the same place that I'm going to go. So that was the beauty of seeing a parson in the middle of a trench and running into him and getting the host, you know, in the toughest place you've ever been. And so time went on through the month. Outpost Green was just a little low. We were 50 yards from the line of battle where the Chinese or the Gooks were. We had barbed wire between us, And every night they tried to come through the wire to get at us. We stood toe to toe with them. And we ended up taking their bodies at night off the wire, putting it away. And this was constant for a whole month. It was June 29th. I had that, my birthday is June 29th. And so that was the start. On the 27th of July, which was 27 days later, I got a notice from the company commander that said that this was 6 o'clock in the morning. He said at midnight tonight, 12 hours, the ceasefire is going to come for sure. Make sure that nobody shoots us, takes a shot, shoots off a weapon, does everything. You keep the guys down and keep them alive as best you can for 12 hours. And he said, good luck. Well, 12 hours became 11 hours and 10 hours. And every round that kept coming in. And finally, what happened is we ended up in a duel. The American side MLR behind us, the Chinese MLR in front of us. Everybody wanted to get in the last shot. And so for the next 12 hours, we took short rounds meant for us, 61s, 155, 105, 75s. The whole mountain was just exploded. And I had 9 guys. My platoon had more than 9, but I had, my squad was the 3rd squad. They were my favorites anyway. And I had those 9 guys in my bunker, hunkered down. I said, if you got to go to the bathroom, you do it right here. We'll clean it up later. But, don't want anybody getting killed in the last minute of this fight. We knew it was coming. So, but just imagine, it's getting dark. It's 8 o'clock, it's 9 o'clock. Now it's 11:15, 11:30. And just imagine what's going on. They called the whole area Christmas Hill. And the reason they did that is because it was always lit up like Christmas, with shells going every which way. And so we probably went out there with 500 men, 2 companies. We left with about 350. And that night, kids were starting to cry, get screaming. We're talking, they'd had enough. We'd all had enough. I would actually had my feet standing on 2 of them to keep them from wanting to bolt. One guy bolted, and I was able to tackle him and drag him back, throw him down in the boat. And sat on him because it got to 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2, like 1 minute, and all of a sudden, went completely quiet. The crescendo was completely quiet. And like a little squirrel in the hole, I stuck my head out, ducked, stuck my head up, and ducked again. And finally, I stood up. Then I imagined 350 of us, 2 squads, all stood up. And somebody a little farther down from me started singing, "There'll be peace in the valley." And a whole bunch of us took up the song. I didn't know the words, but I was singing as loud as hell. And in the distance, I could hear Chinese, the Dukes mumbling, doing what they call music. And I came to the conclusion that these were soldiers that we were killing each other, but they were tired of this war as much as I was, and as much as they wanted to get home as bad as I did too. So we ended up that morning, that night, I told them, don't pull the trigger, don't start World War III by shooting off a weapon and everybody getting crazy again. By morning, the engineers had brought the tape out, taped off a lane for us to walk out of. And I said, why are you taping it? They say, well, this is a minefield. So we've been walking through a minefield for 30 days and using it to carry our wounded up to the MLR where we could get onto a helicopter. We couldn't get a helicopter in our position, so we had to carry them. We lost too many from shot, happened to carry them out. So anyway, the war ended, and we They put us in a truck. The next stop we made was Chosin Reservoir. But we were lucky. It was in July, not in December, like the first Marine War they put up with. Because remember, Korea was the coldest place you ever saw. And it's also the hottest, but it's a peninsula. And that was the fight over for me. In between, there's a million things that I can tell you 100 stories, But my dad told me once, he said, always leave your audience before they leave you. But really, I'd like to just
I want you to tell a story about this Italian kid that went to explosive school.
Oh, well, yes. Can you imagine? My name actually is Gaetano. Everybody called me Gates. But in school, they changed my mother, when she took me to kindergarten, she changed my name to Gaetano. Because she figured I couldn't spell Gaetano, it was too long. I'd never learned it. So I became Gaetan instead of Gaetano, and I called myself Gates. Everybody called me Gates because it was easier. So when I got to Korea, we were in the trenches for about 3 months, and they decided that since I had been to leadership school and war college, and I was a sergeant, I should learn how to use dynamite, explosives, C4, set booby traps. And I said, oh, wow, this is great. So they sent me back for 2 days with the engineers to learn how to handle all this stuff, how to blow up things. And I got back really good because we were on a place on Heartbreak Ridge that Charlie Company was on this side of the ridge and Baker Company was all the way down on the left flank. And there was a big mound of solid rock between us, so we couldn't get the trench down through there. But so we had to always crawl around it to make contact with the guys down there. And so I said, put away the picks and shovels, boys. I had 2 guys that were really thieves, really good. They went snuck back to the engineers' emplacement and stole a case of C4. And so I had some electric. All you needed was a little battery, a couple of wires, and you could remotely set off a lot of stuff. And so I blasted that rock out of there, and we dug a trench 8 feet deep, and we could walk it without getting our heads shot off, in and out. And the colonel, our regimental colonel, he came out and had a look, and he said, Sergeant, how the hell did you ever get through that rock? I said, sir, we just kept picking it. And he said, well, I'm going to put you up for a commendation. Can you imagine? I got a commendation for a rock. So anyway, there are other stories that I can tell you. We could talk for hours about them. But in closing, I'd like to read you one thing that I have found that came on my phone just the other night. And the author is a man named Tom Shambo. Yes, and it says, and I quote, Tom, veteran is someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount and up to and including my life, your life. That is honor. And there are way too many people in this country today who no longer understand it. I want you to know, gentlemen, it's been an honor to be here. We understand it. And people that I meet from Korea, and as men who've done Korea, understand it. So, in closing, thank you, Tom, for this piece. And what Tom was talking about was duty, honor country. God bless you all. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Man.
Okay, sure, we'll move on. Gordon, it's up to you.
Excuse me, good morning, everybody. Here's the treasurer's report. Before I do that, I want to give my condolences to Jenny and Ed. And Frank, good friend of mine, he and I both suffered tremors. So when we got together at Romeo breakfasts, we always had a lot to talk about. And we sat next to each other so we could bounce our arms off of each other. I just, yeah.
Wondering why the table vibrated.
Thank you. Okay, pressing on. The balance beginning for January was $2,148.48. I made a deposit on January the 3rd for $86, which was donations from the can. On the 9th, I made a $200 deposit, which included $50 donations from Tim Murphy, Roger Daggett, Judy Abrego, and Ms. Schaefer from the Schaefer team for advertisement on the Rusted Spurs.
Jim Walters.
I thought I said that to start with. Murphy. Walter, excuse me. Not Tim Murphy. Also on the 12th, I made a $100 donation that came from K Dental, and we want to thank them. On the 30th, I made a donation of I made a deposit of $1,051. Those were tickets sold for the Rusty Spur event. On the 21st, Tim Walter donated another $500 from the sale of a real estate in our development. On the 31st, I had a $385.36 deposit that was forwarded from PayPal, kind of an automatic, but they deduct a little when you donate through PayPal. So we ended up with $385.36. And on the 31st, I also made a $160 donation that came from the last day of sales on the Rusted Spur event. That totaled $4,630.84. We had one expense that was $300. That was reimbursement for one of the players on the Rusted Spur for his travel between Dallas and here. That ended up with a balance of $4,330.84. This morning, Mr. Daggett, Roger, gave me a check for $1,000. So that'll be in the next month, but I wanted to acknowledge his generosity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, old business, Rusted Spur, Bruce.
Good morning, everyone, and my apologies for being late. 77 is lovely, then by myself, in the direction I'm going in. There's no easy to say direction. And so I just don't. It's fine. Rusted Spurs last month, I made an announcement she has new business. This month, we're making an announcement of Rusted Spurs' old business. And you heard the report that Gordon gave. So it was a tremendous success. And on behalf of the board of directors for power of Veterans Club. I want to thank each and every single one of you for making that possible. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to thank Dan for emceeing that event. He did a great job. Okay, we're still looking for clean, gently used winter clothing. The box is out here next to the Patriots Pantry basket. So if you have any old winter clothes that are in good condition that you're not using anymore, the veterans would like to have those to help the homeless veterans. We're looking for volunteers for the spring cookout. Sharon over here, she's making a list for volunteers for that event. It's April 6th. So if you're available to volunteer for that, let her know and we'll get your name on the list. Another thing we have is the POWMIA flag. It was brought to our attention that we didn't have a full-size flag for POWMIA. And Dan Cook was gracious enough to buy that for us. And Tom donated the flagpole, so now we have a POWMIA flag up here in the front. We want to thank them for that. Under new business, we got Dick too, and it's not really new business. He's been doing this for a long time. So you can stay there, Dick. We'll get you something else.
Those people who ordered embroidery, it'll be coming in next Tuesday. And because the club took over and did a little more publicity, we had a little more success this time. So I'm not as pessimistic as I was. But I wanted to flesh out something more about Don Seymour that some of you younger people are not aware of. When we reorganized the club back in 18 or 19 years ago, Don was the person that came up with the idea of the honor plaque. He's the one that started the Veterans Ceremony on Memorial Day or Veterans Day. He's the one that started the cookouts. He was the most important key man when we reorganized the club, and we used to have as low as 6 people coming. And look what's happening now. So give Don credit for what he did because he's a modest guy, never blew his own horn. Thank you.
Larry,
Larry,
yes,
can I just add a little bit to?
yeah, why don't you come up here? Well, we want to get you on camera.
My name again, is it Tom? No, it's not Tom. You're Tom, right? Many of you know, I've been around for a while. Dick has started talking a little bit about the history when 6 of us were the members of the Veterans Club. That was back in 2006. And it was almost the point where we were going to disband the Veterans Club completely unless somebody stood up and did something. Dick stood up and pinched me to make me stand up also. And we've come a long way. I've been on the board. Well, Dick and I both have been on the board since '06 in various capacities. We've seen a lot of members come and go. I just want to thank everything that the Veterans Club has done for this community. And Dick, you got time and grade now.
Don also.
Oh,
Smith.
Don Smith, where is he? There he is. Yeah, he was one of the 6 that continued on. Who was the secretary at the time? You were the treasurer.
Brownson. Pat Brownson.
Pat Brownson was the secretary. And without some people standing up to say, let's keep this thing going, we wouldn't be here today. So, thank you. I'm still gonna be around, just in less of a capacity. Want to thank all of the board members who have taken over the years, over the decades. It's been a while since '06. So, thank you. Larry?
Thank you to all of you older guys that were on the board at that time that keep this thing going. Okay, are there any new or returning attendees? No. We do have a couple visitors, so.
Hey,
I'm gonna take the opportunity to introduce this guy, because we go back 3 generations. Our dads worked together in the iron mines, and this guy, John, and I, and our 2 families grew up together, and our kids all graduated from high school together. And so I'm going to let John introduce himself.
I would stand up, but I got a bad leg leg I had a belt 10 days ago and then a little wounded. My father and I, as he said, we were all the boys together from the time we were 8 years old till graduating high school. And I said my career was 1961 to 1969. I spent 1 year in Vietnam as a Vietnam dog handler. Duke 645 F is my email after my dog, who was wounded in action in 1966 and perished 4 months later. But I really am glad that I was able to come down here. I came down to Arizona to visit my daughter and son-in-law who were up in Mesa. And I know Bill Cummings and I have been good buddies for several years in the Vietnam Dog Handler Association and the Vietnam Security Police. And as long as I was in Arizona, I had to see Bob and Bill. And I'm here now and I'm glad to be here. And I thank you guys for your service.
My name is Bob Thornton, and this is my uncle. And he was a role model, I guess, for me. I joined the Army because I don't know. I joined the Army because I heard the stories about his Vietnam time, and my dad was in the Navy, and me joining the Army, I figured it would piss my dad off. And I have a feeling that he got the last laugh. But I did one tour, 87, 90. And then after I got out of the Army, I didn't know what I was gonna do. And my uncle stepped up, offered me a job at US Steel. And I worked there for 30 years and I just retired last year. Moved down here last August, and this is where I planted my roots, and I'm going to be living here for the rest of my days, hopefully. So, nice to meet everyone that I've met so far. And that's about it for me. I was stationed at Fort Myer, Virginia. I was in the Old Guard, 3rd U.S. Infantry, and did ceremonies mainly my entire career. And I spent a lot of time at the White House, and then I joined, or I tried out for the United States Army drill team and traveled with them for a full year around the country in our territories doing recruiting drives. And and then I got out in 1990. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bill Cummings. I was a sentry dog handler in the United States Air Force, and led me in the meeting, John. We go back a long time. We've served a lot of members together, and I can't tell you what it means to be here with you. I met Bob when he first come out here. You all know what Bob does. It's some really good things. It's some really good things. And Bob, I'd like to you, one second. You can take this, I'd appreciate it. Sure, I'll take that. But I live up the road, up just north of the airport. I'm so proud to be here, and Tom Shambo has been telling me about this group for years. I'm hard hearing, and sometimes I don't hear Tom, you know. It's like y'all got something going here. It's really, really, really a pleasure to be here. So thank you very much. I handle 3 dogs, much like John in the airport.
Oh, I'm still good.
You're good. He's good. I tell you, he's good.
Okay, any other new members? Okay. Anything for the good of the cause? Yes, Dan?
Yeah, I just want to say something about the Rusted Spurs was a great event, but Bruce, stand up. He harassed people to buy tickets. Nobody came through the front entrance that wasn't asked, have you bought tickets to the Rusted Spurs? And he even got Steve and I to do his endless days of ticket sales. But Bruce, you did a great job. It was a pleasure serving with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
And one other thing that it was an honor to present the BOW-MIA flag. And I'm hearing the Sargent talk about Korea. I reflect on my service in the Air Force and now serving at the VA, helping veterans get through the process. But I do it in the honor of my father, First Sergeant Gordon R. Cook, United States Marine Corps, 1943 to 1964. And I find the flag and presented this club for him and in his name. I'm so proud to be his son and so proud to be a veteran of the United States of America. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the good of the cause? Well, then we shall adjourn. Thank you so much.